Hello, and welcome to Introduction to DoubleClick Rich Media QA. My name is Alec Foster, and I'm a quality specialist on the DoubleClick Rich Media QA team. Over the next few days, I'll be teaching you the fundamentals of quality assurance in order for you to become DoubleClick QA certified. In this class, we will talk a little bit about the basics of our QA testing methodologies. By the end of this session, this is what I hope you know. First, you will have a general idea of what the QA role entails. Second, you will understand why quality assurance is an integral part of the rich media workflow. And third, you will understand the three different types of QA testing methodologies and be able to name a few examples of each issue. When we talk about quality assurance, or QA, we are referring to the planned and systematic activities which ensure that quality requirements for a creative will be fulfilled. To ensure that the ads meet DoubleClick standards, the DoubleClick QA team employs numerous tests that vary based on the format and features of each creative. These tests are meant to demonstrate the technical integrity of the creative without assessing or judging any aspect of its design. These questions are left to the client to decide. Essentially, the quality assurance process allows DoubleClick to verify that all ads have been developed and tested to meet the client's expectations prior to going live. This is often the last line of defense before an ad is sent for trafficking. By learning DoubleClick's step-by-step guidelines for QA, you will be able to efficiently develop and traffic your creatives, saving advertisers time and money. At the end of this training, you will be able to thoroughly test each creative to make sure that they function and track properly, and that they conform to site specifications. There are three types of issues that we test for: functionality, tracking, and specs. Let's begin by reviewing functionality issues. When we examine functionality issues, the DoubleClick QA team tests to see that the creative is working as designed. An undetected functionality issue can result in a poor user experience, or worse, the creative may crash your user's browser. A creative that contains functionality issues, such as not expanding properly, should be rejected. When looking for common functionality issues, the DoubleClick Rich Media team tests the look and the feel of the creative, tests that the creative meets the basic performance requirements, tests how well the creative performs in a particular environment, tests to see if the creative is clicking through properly, tests to see if the creative is user-friendly, and tests to see that the backup image is displaying correctly. Now, let's examine tracking issues. When we examine tracking issues in QA, we are testing to see that the creative is recording the interaction metrics. This requires us to test both custom and standard events to ensure that they are triggered and logged correctly. In this next session, you will learn how to test for tracking issues within the Events tab of the Studio console. Unlike with functionality issues, the DoubleClick Rich Media QA team does not have to reject for tracking errors. Instead, they would note the error so the developer or media agency can confirm the intended functionality of each tracking metric. We simply make recommendations whenever a tracking issue is identified. There are three types of custom and standard events that we test for: counters, exits, and timers. A counter is the number of times that a user interacts with any part of an ad in a specified way, such as a mouse over, mouse out, click in, expand, or collapse. Anything that can be captured by Flash can be recorded as a counter event. During a tracking test, the Rich Media QA team interacts with the ad to verify that each counter is logged and tracked. The counter event should increase from 0 to 1. Allow me to demonstrate. First, I will open the output console. Watch as I test the +1 and +1 removed counters. When pressed, the counter should increase from 0 to 1. Notice how the counter increased. I will now remove my +1, generating another count. As you can see, both counters logged and tracked correctly. The next tracking issue that I will demonstrate is an exit. An exit is the number of click-throughs generated by the creative. During your exit check, you will click on each exit area to verify that the exit event is logged and tracked every time you click on it. The exit event should be logged and the count should increase by 1 each time the user clicks on it. Also, the exit should not open in the same window. It should always open in a new window or tab unless specifically requested by the client. The click-through should fire on release and not on press. Now I will demonstrate an exit that functions and tracks correctly. Watch what happens when I click the background of the creative. As you can see, my click-through opened the destination in a new tab. The exit was also properly tracked and logged in the output console. The third tracking issue that I will demonstrate is the timer. This is the time during which a user views and interacts with a specified part of the creative. A creative can have multiple timer events, each one timed independently. To conduct a timer check, you must interact with the ad to verify the timer start and timer stop events. The timers should start and stop every time you interact with the timer event. The timer should not register any interaction after the event associated with the timer is stopped. I will begin by opening the output console. As you can see, the display time timer has already begun tracking. When I hover my mouse over the creative, the Rich Media interaction time timer will also begin to track. Now I will move my mouse off of the creative. As you can see, the Rich Media interaction time timer stopped tracking after my mouse left the creative. However, the display time timer continued to track correctly. The last issue we'll look at are the specs and LCDs. When we examine a creative for specs issues in QA, we are testing to see that the dimensions and specifications of the creative is what the publishers desire. Many publishers provide their own specifications that you should use, if available, as QA guidelines. These specs can include file size, dimensions, video length, and frame rate, and will be specific to your campaign. We'll get into these in another video. If you don't have a publisher's specs for a creative, there's a set of creative specs, also known as the lowest common denominator specs, or LCDs, unique to each creative that most publishers accept. If publisher specs are not provided, you can use our LCD test scripts to verify DoubleClick's best practices. We will walk through how to check your creative against commonly used specs in another video. Just as with tracking issues, we never fail a creative on specs issues. The DoubleClick Rich Media QA team simply makes a recommendation to the clients based on our LCDs for common publishers. However, if specs are provided by a publisher and are not met, this is a means for rejection. When the creative passes QA, you will have the option to approve and submit the creative for trafficking. By now, you should be familiar with the 3 QA testing methodologies and their differences, know examples of functionality, tracking, and specs issues, and know why the QA role is important. In the next video, you will learn how to QA from within the Studio UI and QA console.